Welcome, dear listener, to this enthralling dive into the shadowy world of Miss Marple in Fatal Sleeping Secrets. I'm delighted you've joined us as we peel back the layers of a chilling Agatha Christie mystery filled with buried memories, hidden scandals, and the unyielding pursuit of truth. Cozy up with your favorite brew, keep your suspicions sharp, and prepare to uncover a sleeping murder that refuses to stay dormant. If you love these gripping tales, don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. Hit that button now to never miss a twist. In the foggy coastal town of Dilmouth, a young woman buys a charming seaside villa, only to be haunted by visions of a strangled blonde beauty at the foot of the stairs. Echoes of a childhood trauma she can't quite grasp. As renovations unearth cryptic clues like hidden letters and a buried locket, she and her husband delve into the villa's dark past. A glamorous actress named Helen, who vanished amid whispers of forbidden affairs and jealous rages, enter the unassuming yet razor-sharp Miss Marple, who senses a sleeping murder stirring awake after 18 years, with suspects including a possessive half-brother, a spurned suitor, and an obsessive admirer. Alibis fracture, secrets surface, and a shocking revelation exposes the killer hiding in plain sight. Can the past be laid to rest, or will it claim new victims? Tune in. The truth will chill you to the bone. Chapter 1. Echoes of a Forgotten Home. The salt-kissed breeze whipped through the narrow streets of Dilmouth, carrying the distant roar of the English Channel like a siren's call. It was one of those crisp autumn afternoons where the sun hung low, painting the world in hues of amber and rust, and Gwenda Reed felt an inexplicable pull toward the quaint coastal town. Fresh from New Zealand, her skin still tanned from Antipodean summers, she wandered with a map crumpled in her hand, her auburn curls escaping the confines of a silk scarf. At 25, Gwenda was a bundle of optimism, her marriage to Giles a whirlwind romance sealed on an Auckland beach. Now, in this foreign yet oddly familiar land, they sought a home to root their dreams. Her footsteps led her up a winding hill, past fishermen mending nets and tea shops wafting the aroma of scones and clotted cream. There, perched like a sentinel overlooking the sea, stood Hillside, a Victorian villa with ivy-cloaked walls and mullioned windows that winked in the sunlight. The estate agent's sign creaked in the wind, proclaiming it for sale. Gwenda halted, her heart skipping a beat. It wasn't the architecture that captivated her, it was a visceral tug, as if the house whispered her name. Pushing open the wrought iron gate, she stepped onto the gravel path, crunching underfoot like forgotten bones. The garden was a wild tapestry, overgrown rhododendrons bursting with late blooms, a stone fountain gurgling faintly, and a swing creaking lazily from an ancient oak. The front door, painted a faded, cornflower blue, swung open at her touch, revealing a foyer bathed in dusty light filtering through stained glass. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing off polished oak panels. The agent, a portly man named Mr. Hornbeam, with a moustache like a broom, emerged from the shadows, keys jangling. "Miss Reed, or is it Mrs.? Right on time. Hillside's a gem, solid bones, sea views, bit of history, been empty a spell, but nothing a fresh coat can't fix." As he led her through the rooms, Gwenda's senses ignited. The parlor boasted a marble fireplace, its mantel etched with faint carvings of seashells. She traced them with her fingers, a shiver racing up her spine. "It's perfect," she murmured, though a nagging doubt flickered. Why did the layout feel premeditated, like a stage set for her alone? Upstairs, In the master bedroom, sunlight danced across faded wallpaper patterned with climbing vines. Gwenda paused at the window, gazing at the cliffs where waves crashed in rhythmic fury. "Who lived here last?" she asked, turning to Hornbeam. He shuffled papers. "The Hallidays, back in the 30s. Kelvin Halliday, a businessman, and his wife Helen. She was a looker, they say, actress type. Vanished one day. Poof. Some scandal, but old news. House passed hands a few times since." Gwenda nodded absently, but as she descended the staircase, her hand gliding along the banister carved with monkey motifs. Curious little creatures frozen in mid-leap. A wave of vertigo hit. The world tilted, and in a flash, she saw it. A woman sprawled at the bottom, limbs akimbo, golden hair fanned like a halo on the Persian rug. Strangler's hands. No, something subtler. And words, unbidden, rose in her mind. "Cover her face. Mine eyes dazzle. She died young." From Webster's Duchess of Malfi, she recalled, vaguely from school plays. She gripped the rail, breath shallow. Hornbeam frowned. "You all right, miss? Look like you've seen a ghost." Gwenda forced a laugh, shaking off the vision. "Just the sea air, heady stuff. I'll take it. Hillside's meant for us." Papers signed in a blur. She wired Giles in London. "Found our nest. Come quick." Odd vibes, but thrilling. As the sun dipped, she lingered on the porch, watching gulls wheel overhead. The house seemed to sigh in contentment, but beneath, a pulse throbbed, like a heart long stilled, stirring awake, days blurred into renovations. Giles arrived tall and boyish, with a grin that could melt glaciers, his architect's eye appraising every beam. "Darling, it's smashing, a bit creaky, but we'll make it sing." They tore into walls, discovering quirks, a bricked-up alcove hiding a tarnished silver locket engraved with HK, Helen Kelvin. Gwenda pocketed it, a talisman of curiosity. Nights brought unease. In the guest room, theirs until the master was repainted, Gwenda tossed under quilts, dreams fragmenting into kaleidoscopes, a child's laughter echoing down halls, a woman's silhouette fleeing through fog-shrouded gardens, a man's voice murmuring accusations. Waking sweat-drenched, she'd pad to the kitchen for tea, the floorboards groaning like reluctant confessors. One evening, as rain lashed the windows, Giles lit a fire in the parlor. "Tell me about these vibes," he teased, handing her a mug of cocoa laced with brandy. "You're not turning psychic on me." Gwenda curled beside him, flames casting flickering portraits on the walls. "It's silly, but the staircase. I keep imagining a body there, blonde, lifeless, and that quote, it pops up uninvited." Giles' brow furrowed. "From the play, creepy. Maybe you read about the Hallidays subconsciously. Hornbeam mentioned scandal." She shook her head. "No, it's deeper, like déjà vu but sharper. What if I lived here as a child? Father travelled. New Zealand wasn't always home." Giles pulled her close. "Possible. Your dad was English, right? We could dig into records." The storm raged outside, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Gwenda nestled into his warmth, the locket pressing against her chest. For now, the house held its peace, a temporary truce in the brewing tempest of memory. Morning brought clarity and company. A knock echoed as Gwenda scraped wallpaper in the hall, revealing layers of patterns, floral beneath stripes, then a bold geometric that made her pause. "Coming," she called, dusting her hands. On the doorstep stood an elderly woman, umbrella dripping, her eyes twinkling behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Miss Marple, from St. Mary Mead, visiting my niece nearby. Heard about the new owners. Thought I'd pop in with a welcome basket. Jam and biscuits, homemade." Gwenda ushered her in, charmed by the visitor's bird-like alertness. Over tea in the sunny kitchen, Miss Marple chatted amiably about village lore. Dilmouth's full of stories. That villa, hillside, was it? Changed names, but memories linger. The Hallidays, tragic. Gwenda leaned in. Tragic how? The agent was vague. Miss Marple sipped delicately. Helen Halliday disappeared. Rumours of elopement, but her husband Kelvin swore she was murdered. Hallucinations, poor man. Committed himself eventually. Left a daughter, I believe. Sent abroad. Gwenda's cup clattered. A daughter. What became of her? Lost to time, dear. But houses like this, they remember. If odd feelings arise, perhaps let sleeping dogs lie. Or cats, they're more discreet. As Miss Marple departed, her words hung like cobwebs. Gwenda stared at the staircase, the monkeys on the banister leering now. A forgotten home, or a tomb of secrets. Giles returned from town with paint swatches, his enthusiasm infectious. Let's transform this place. Yet, as they worked side by side, Gwenda's resolve hardened. The visions weren't madness, they were invitations. To what end, she couldn't say, but hillside's echoes demanded an audience. That night, under a canopy of stars visible from the attic window, she whispered to the shadows, "Show me more." The house, obliging, creaked in response, a prelude to revelations yet to unfold. Chapter 2. Whispers from the wallpaper. The fog rolled in from the channel like a living shroud, blanketing Dilmouth in a hush that amplified every creak and murmur within Hillside Villa. Gwenda Reed stood in the upstairs hallway, scraper in hand, peeling away layers of wallpaper with the determination of an archaeologist unearthing lost civilizations. Each strip came away reluctantly, revealing strata of bygone tastes. A garish floral riot from the 40s, then a subdued stripe evoking wartime austerity. But as she worked, a peculiar sensation crept over her, like the walls themselves were exhaling long-held breaths, stirring dust motes into ethereal dances. Giles joined her, his sleeves rolled up, a streak of plaster dusting his cheek like war paint. "This place is a time capsule," he remarked, his voice buoyant despite the labor. Found an old tin of biscuits in the pantry, empty, but the labels from before the war. "Empire Blend," it says. "Imperial echoes in our humble abode." Gwenda smiled, but her eyes lingered on a newly exposed patch, a delicate pattern of intertwining ivy, faded yet insistent, as if climbing towards some forgotten light. Touching it, a jolt surged through her. Not electric, but mnemonic. In her mind's eye, a flash, small hands pressing against this very wall, giggles suppressed behind it, while adult voices droned in muffled argument below. "Giles," she whispered, "this wallpaper, I know it. From childhood dreams, perhaps, or nightmares." He paused, scraper midair. "You're serious? That Marple lady got under your skin with her tales. Let's not jump to ghosts. Could be coincidence. Patterns repeat like bad habits." But Gwenda shook her head. The locket from the alcove now hanging around her neck, its weight a constant reminder. "No, it's more. Let's dig deeper, literally. Check the attic for records, trunks, anything." They ascended the narrow stairs to the attic, where sunlight slanted through a grimy dormer window, illuminating beams festooned with cobwebs like festive garlands. Boxes loomed in corners labeled in faded ink, seasonal decor, books, misc. Giles pried one open, sneezing as dust billowed. Jackpot, old ledgers, photos, even a theatre program. Gwenda seized the program, its cover emblazoned with the Duchess of Malfi in swirling Art Deco script. Webster's play, the source of that quote haunting me, performed in London, 1920s. Look, a name scribbled inside, Helen Halliday, with a heart doodled beside. Giles whistled low. The vanished wife, coincidence piling up. Hornbeam said she was theatrical. Maybe she starred in local productions. As they sifted further, a bundle of yellowed letters tumbled out, tied with a frayed ribbon. Gwenda untied them carefully, the paper crackling like autumn leaves. The first was addressed to Dearest H from a JK, initials that sparked a vague alarm. Listen. Your radiance on stage last night eclipsed the footlights, but beware the shadows off stage. Jealous eyes watch. Signed, your devoted brother. Brother? Giles echoed, peering over her shoulder. Helen had a sibling. This JK could be key, perhaps a protective type, meddling in her affairs. The attic grew stuffier, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and mothballs. Gwenda folded the letters away, her pulse quickening. We need locals' insights. That pub down the hill, the Smuggler's Rest. Fishermen there spin yarns thicker than their nets. Evening descended as they ventured out, the fog now a swirling veil that turned lampposts into ghostly sentinels. The Smuggler's Rest was a cozy den of weathered wood and brass fittings, the bar polished to a sheen by countless elbows. Patrons huddled over pints, their faces etched with sea-salted lines. Gwenda and Giles claimed a corner booth, ordering cider that arrived foaming and tart. An old salt named Captain Trevelyan, with a beard like tangled kelp, overheard their queries. Hillside, eh? Aye, the Hallidays' haunt. Kelvin, solid chap, but Helen, a firecracker, blonde as corn silk, voice like a siren song. Rumours flew, suitors aplenty, from lawyers to layabouts. She vanished one stormy night, left Kelvin raving about murder. Poor sod ended in an asylum, convinced he'd throttled her himself in a black mood. Gwenda leaned in, the cider's warmth loosening her tongue. What about her brother? Any kin mentioned? Trevelyan chuckled, pipe smoke curling like incantations. Dr. Kennedy, half-brother, mind, different fathers, lived up north, visited often. Stern fellow, disapproved of her flings. After she bolted, or was buried, depending on the tale, he took charge of the wee girl, shipped her overseas. New Zealand, I reckon. The word struck Gwenda like a gale. A girl? How old? 3 or so, bonny thing, with her mother's eyes. Name slips me, Gwendolyn. No, Gwenda. Aye, that's it. Giles gripped her hand under the table as the pub spun. Captain, you're sure? As sure as tides turn. Why the pale face, lass? You look like you've swallowed a hook. Back at Hillside, the revelation hung heavy. Gwenda paced the parlour, firelight flickering across her features. It fits. My father's name was Kelvin, but he changed it after something. Remarried in New Zealand, told me little of England. Was I that child, witness to whatever happened? Giles stoked the fire, sparks ascending like liberated spirits. If so, your visions aren't fancy. They're memories, suppressed by trauma. Helen was my stepmother. No, your mother. This changes everything. A knock shattered the tension. Miss Marple again, bundled against the chill, a knitted shawl draped like armour. Forgive the intrusion, dears. My niece mentioned your pub jaunt. Whispers travel fast in Dilmouth. May I join your council? Seated with fresh tea, Miss Marple listened intently, her knitting needles clicking a rhythmic counterpoint. Fascinating. Houses absorb lives like sponges. Your flashes, Gwenda, classic repressed recall, but meddling with the past, it's like tugging a loose thread. The whole sweater unravels. Gwenda's voice trembled. But if Helen was murdered, not fled, justice demands it. Miss Marple's eyes sharpened. Justice or curiosity? I've seen many a sleeping murder stirred awake. Proceed cautiously. Start with Dr. Kennedy. If he's alive, he holds the loom. Giles nodded. We'll track him. Tomorrow, telegrams to registries. As Miss Marple departed into the fog, her silhouette fading like a spectre, Gwenda and Giles retired upstairs. In bed, the wallpaper's ivy seemed to writhe in moonlight, whispering invitations to delve deeper. Gwenda dreamed that night. Not fragments, but a sequence. A golden-haired woman twirling in a garden, laughter turning to gasps as shadows encroached. Awakening at dawn, she found Giles already up, sketching a family tree on scrap paper. Kennedy's our next thread, he said, determination etching his jaw. But promise me, if it darkens, we stop. Gwenda agreed, though inwardly the pull strengthened. The villa's whispers had become a chorus, urging her toward truths buried in sibling shadows and vanished affections. As sunlight pierced the curtains, Hillside stood sentinel once more, its secrets peeling away layer by layer, ready for the unraveling ahead. Chapter 3. Shadows of Sibling Bonds. The train rattled northward through patchwork fields, where sheep grazed indifferently under a sky bruised with impending rain. Gwenda Reed clutched the telegram in her gloved hand, its terse words a beacon. Dr. James Kennedy, Woodley Bolton, Yorkshire, retired, responds to inquiries. Giles sat beside her, his architect's sketchbook open to a makeshift map of connections, lines spidering from Helen's name to suitors, scandals, and now this elusive half-brother. The compartment smelled of coal smoke and stale sandwiches, but Gwenda's mind was elsewhere, replaying the pub's revelations like a scratched gramophone. Yorkshire's a trek, Giles murmured, tracing the route with a pencil. But if Kennedy's the key, we'll turn it. Your memories, they're sharpening, aren't they? Gwenda nodded, gazing at the blurring landscape. Like fog lifting. Last night I dreamed of a man with a stethoscope, his voice stern, bundling me away on a ship. If I'm that child, he might remember me. The journey stretched into hours, stations flashing by like forgotten milestones. At Woodley Bolton, a quaint village nestled in rolling moors, they alighted into a chill wind that carried the tang of heather and peat. A horse-drawn cab ferried them to a stone cottage on the outskirts, its chimney puffing defiantly against the grey. The door bore a brass plaque, Dr. J. Kennedy, M.D., Retted. A housekeeper with a face like weathered granite answered their knock. The doctor's not seeing visitors. He's poorly. Giles flashed his most charming smile. Please, it's about family. Helen Halliday. We're from Dilmouth, and it's urgent. After a grumbled consultation, she ushered them into a study lined with medical tomes and curios, a human skull grinning from a shelf, jars of preserved specimens glowing amber in the lamplight. Dr. Kennedy emerged, a tall man in his 70s, stooped like a question mark, his eyes shadowed by bushy brows. A pipe smouldered in his hand, filling the room with aromatic tobacco. Halliday, you say? Ancient history. What stirs it now? Gwenda stepped forward, the locket dangling visibly. I'm Gwenda Reed, née Halliday, I believe. Hillside Villa triggered memories. Helen was my stepmother. Or something more. Kennedy's pipe paused mid-puff, his gaze sharpening. Gwenda, the tot Kelvin shipped off. By Jove, you've her eyes, Helen spark. Sit. This dredges up silt best left settled. They perched on leather armchairs cracked with age, the fire in the grate crackling like interrogative pops. Kennedy settled opposite, his voice gravelly with reluctance. Helen was my half-sister, same mother, different fathers, spirited girl, too much for her own good. Ran off to stage life in London, all glamour and grease paint. Met Kelvin Halliday at a soiree. He, a widower with a toddler. You, Gwenda. Whirlwind courtship. They wed in 28, settled in Dilmouth. Giles leaned in. But the troubles, locals whisper of jealousy, disappearances. Kennedy's fingers drummed the armrest. Troubles aplenty. Helen attracted moths to her flame. Walter Fane, a solicitor from town, steady chap, proposed once, rebuffed gently. Then Jackie Affleck, a flashy importer with a yacht and wandering eyes, obsessive type, sent her orchids weekly, whispered promises of exotic escapes. Kelvin seethed, accused her of dalliances. Nights turned stormy, arguments echoing over the cliffs. Gwenda's heart raced. Did she reciprocate? A sigh escaped Kennedy. Flirted, perhaps, to needle Kelvin, but loyal at core. I visited often, played mediator. One eve, found her weeping in the garden, confessing fears. James, they're closing in, eyes everywhere. Thought it paranoia from the spotlight's glare. The housekeeper brought tea on a silver tray, scones steaming with currants. As they sipped, Kennedy's tale deepened. The end came swift. Kelvin rang me in panic, Helen missing, note claiming elopement with Jay, assumed Jackie. But Kelvin raved, swore he'd seen her strangled, body in the hall. Hallucinations, I diagnosed, committed him gently. He faded in the asylum. Giles set down his cup. But evidence. No body, no crime. Kennedy rose, unlocking a desk drawer with a key from his watch chain. He extracted a small glass bottle, its label yellowed, quinine, for malaria prophylaxis. This, from Kelvin's medicine cabinet. Post-disappearance, I analyzed it. Traces of digitalis, enough to induce visions, madness. Someone tampered, driving him to doubt his sanity. Gwenda gasped, the room spinning slightly. Poisoned? By whom? To cover murder. Kennedy's eyes met hers, burdened. Suspected Jackie, revenge for rejection. Or Walter, spurned pride. Even wondered if Helen staged it, fleeing the cage. But no, her locket, that one you're wearing, found in the garden soil years later, buried hastily. The revelation hung heavy, the fire's warmth suddenly oppressive. Gwenda touched the locket, its engraving now a cipher. You kept this secret. Guilt shackled me, Kennedy admitted, voice cracking. Failed her as brother. Should have probed deeper, but fear of scandal, exposure, silenced me. Now, with you here, perhaps atonement. Outside, rain began to patter, drumming on the panes like insistent fingers. Giles probed gently. Your alibi that night. Kennedy chuckled mirthlessly. In London, consulting. Train tickets proved it. Police dismissed me early. As shadows lengthened, a post arrived. A letter from Miss Marple, forwarded via telegram relay. Gwenda read aloud. Dear ones, examine all correspondences. Helen's pleas may illuminate veils. Tread lightly. Siblings bind, but bonds can strangle. J.M. Kennedy fetched a bundle from the drawer. Helen's letters, penned in elegant script. One stood out. James. The suitors circle like vultures. Walter pleads reason, Jackie promises stars. But Kelvin's jealousy poisons us. Help me break free before it's too late. Giles's eyes widened. Break free, not elope, but escape alone. Kennedy nodded slowly. Perhaps. This absolves my silence. I urged her to stay, play the dutiful wife. My meddling. Did it doom her? The chapter of confession drew to a close as Kennedy slumped, unburdened, yet weary. You've cracked my shell. No malice from me, only regret. Seek the lovers. Their shadows lengthen still. Farewelling with promises of correspondence, Gwenda and Giles departed into the drizzle, the cab splashing through puddles mirroring the moor's melancholy. On the return train, Gwenda whispered, His gilt's lifted, but the web tightens. Jackie or Walter, next quarry. Giles squeezed her hand. And Miss Marple's nudge, those veils of vanished lovers. We're unraveling, thread by thread. Night enveloped the carriage, stars pricking the velvet sky like clues in a cosmic puzzle. Hillside awaited, its whispers evolving into echoes of betrayal, propelling them toward confrontations veiled in time's haze. Chapter 4. Veils of vanished lovers. The coastal fog clung to Dilmouth like a possessive suitor, muffling the cries of gulls and turning the harbour into a spectral realm where ships loomed as phantoms. Gwenda Reed and Giles navigated the slick cobbles toward the Anchor Inn, a weathered establishment perched on the quay, its sign groaning in the wind like a reluctant storyteller. The air was thick with the brine of low tide and the faint, acrid whiff of pipe tobacco drifting from open windows. This was no chance visit. Dr. Kennedy's letters had pointed them here to Jackie Affleck, Helen's most ardent admirer, now a shipping magnate whose fortunes had risen as mysteriously as Helen had vanished. Inside, the inn was a haven of amber lamplight and polished brass, patrons murmuring over tankards as if sharing secrets with the sea. Affleck occupied a corner booth, a burly man in his 60s with a mane of silver hair and eyes like polished obsidian, sharp and unyielding. He nursed a whiskey, his fingers adorned with a gaudy sapphire ring, tapping an impatient rhythm on the table. Reed, is it? And the husband. Kennedy wired you'd come sniffing. Sit, but make it quick. Tides wait for no man, nor do I. Gwenda slid into the booth, the locket at her throat feeling heavier than ever, while Giles ordered ales to ease the chill. Mr. Affleck, we're piecing together Helen Halliday's last days. You knew her intimately, more than most. Affleck's laugh was a bark, echoing off the timbered walls. Intimately. Ha! Helen was a comet, bright, fleeting, scorching those too close. We met at a theatrical gala in Plymouth, 29, she in a gown like liquid moonlight, reciting lines from some forgotten farce. I was smitten, sent her trinkets from my imports, silks from Singapore, pearls from the South Seas. She laughed at my audacity, but her eyes, they promised adventures. Giles leaned forward, his voice steady amid the inn's hum. Promises unkept. Rumors say you pursued her relentlessly, even after her marriage. Affleck's gaze darkened, the sapphire ring catching the light like a winking eye. Pursued. Courted, aye. Stolen moments in moonlit coves, whispers of escape to exotic ports. Helen confided Kelvin's cage grew tighter, his business trips masking suspicions. But Kennedy, that meddlesome half-brother, intercepted my notes, warned her off. Jackie's a rover, he'd say, not for the likes of you. Thwarted us at every turn, like a shadow in the wings. The ales arrived, foaming and golden, their bitterness mirroring the undercurrents in Affleck's tale. Gwenda sipped, probing gently. The night she disappeared. Where were you? Affleck swirled his whiskey, ice clinking like accusations. Anchored offshore, yacht bobbing in the bay. Helen signaled from the cliffs, a lantern flash, our code for rendezvous. I rowed ashore, heart pounding like a drum. Found her in the garden folly, eyes wild. Jackie, it's unraveling, she gasped. Laughter turned to screams. Argued with Kelvin earlier, something about a hidden letter. Then footsteps. I hid in the brambles. Saw a figure approach, silhouetted, urgent. Helen fled into the house. I slipped back to sea, assuming she'd contact me later. Never did. Giles' brow furrowed. A figure. Kennedy. Affleck shrugged. Too dark to tell, but next day, whispers of elopement. A postcard arrived weeks later, postmarked France. Free at last. Don't follow. H. Forged, I reckoned. Handwriting off. Phrasing stiff. Kept it as memento mori. Gwenda's pulse quickened. May we see it? From his waistcoat, Affleck produced a creased card, edges frayed like old regrets. The script looped elegantly, but something jarred, a flourish too precise, ink too fresh for its age. Take it, proves nothing but haunts everything. As rain began to lash the inn's windows, blurring the harbour into abstraction, a boy burst in with a telegram. For Mrs. Reed. Gwenda tore it open, Miss Marple's words leaping forth. Examine postcard ink. Modern forgeries fade differently. Timelines skew. Affleck's yacht logged elsewhere. J.M. Giles pocketed the card. Miss Marple's instincts are uncanny. Mr. Affleck, your motives, revenge for rejection, or unrequited love turned lethal. Affleck's face hardened, then softened in a rare vulnerability. Love? Aye, but not the killing kind. Helen was my horizon, vast, unattainable. After her gone, I built an empire on regrets, importing fortunes to fill the void. But murder? No, here's proof. He slid a leather-bound logbook across the table, pages stamped with harbourmaster seals. Yacht manifest. That night, moored in Falmouth, for repairs, crew as witnesses. Ironclad. Police cleared me back then. Gwenda flipped through, dates aligning with unassailable alibis, repairs documented, witnesses listed. Then the figure in the garden. Who? Affleck leaned back, the booth's shadows deepening his features. Someone close, weaving illusions. Kennedy meddled, but Walter Fane, the solicitor, lurked too. Jealous type, proposed to Helen pre-Kelvin, wrote her sonnets, poor sod. Perhaps he forged the card, staging escape to mask his deed. The inn's clock struck the hour, its chime resonant as a verdict. Gwenda felt a shift, like veils parting, revealing not clarity, but layered deceptions. Minor deceptions, you said. What were yours? Affleck sighed, draining his glass. Lied to police about the rendezvous, feared implication, and the orchids. Smuggled some, evading tariffs, harmless vanities. But Helen's scream, it echoes still. Find her truth, grant us both peace. As they rose to leave, the fog outside had thickened into a palpable barrier, lamps haloed in mist. Giles clasped Affleck's hand. You've lifted a veil, thank you. Affleck nodded, a ghost of a smile. Beware the last layers, they cling fiercest. Stepping into the murk, Gwenda and Giles hurried back to Hillside, the postcard burning in her pocket like a talisman of treachery. The villa welcomed them with creaking doors and flickering gaslights, its atmosphere charged with anticipation. In the parlour, they spread the evidence. Letters, logbook, card under magnifying glass. Miss Marple's right, Giles mused, examining the ink's subtle bleed. This postcard, paper's era-appropriate, but the pigment, too stable, no fading from salt air. Forged recently. No, expertly aged, but inconsistencies in the postmark smudge. Gwenda paced, the locket swinging. Affleck's cleared, alibi solid, motives mellowed by time. But he redirects to Walter Fane. And Kennedy's interference. Was it protective or possessive? A fresh telegram arrived via night messenger. Fane's sonnets in archives sentimental, not sinister, but check alibis anew. Illusions orchestrate from within. Garden folly holds more. J.M. Inspired, they ventured into the night garden, lanterns cutting swaths through fog. The folly, a gazebo overgrown with wisteria, loomed like a forgotten shrine. Gwenda's hand brushed a loose stone in the foundation, dislodging it to reveal a cavity. Inside, a tarnished compact mirror engraved to H from W.F. Walter Fane. Giles whistled. Hidden here, a lover's token or evidence planted. Gwenda's mind raced. The fateful night, Helen screams, figure approaching. Not a killer, perhaps, but a conspirator in escape. Or the architect of illusion, feigning death to free her. Back inside, warmed by brandy-laced cocoa, they pieced it further. Affleck's exoneration brought bittersweet relief, healing his wounds of unrequited passion, absolving a life shadowed by suspicion. Yet the redirection pulsed with urgency. The true puppeteer lurked closer, manipulating veils of vanishing to conceal a deeper betrayal. As midnight tolled, Gwenda gazed at the staircase, the monkeys on the banister, now guardians of emerging truth. Tomorrow, Walter Fane, or whoever wove this web, the climax beckons. Giles drew her close, the fire's embers glowing like embers of resolve. Hillside secrets, once sleeping, now stirred fully awake, propelling them toward the heart of the enigma. Chapter 5. Awakening the Silent Killer. The sun dipped low over the Dilmouth cliffs, casting elongated shadows that stretched like accusing fingers toward Hillside Villa. Inside, the air thrummed with an electric expectancy, the kind that precedes a storm's first crack of thunder. Gwenda Reed had transformed the parlor into a makeshift tribunal, arranging armchairs in a semicircle around the infamous staircase, that silent sentinel where her visions had first clawed their way to the surface. Polished wood gleamed under fresh beeswax, but no amount of scrubbing could erase the invisible stains of history. Giles paced by the window, his usual optimism tempered by a steely resolve, while Gwenda fingered the locket, its engraved initials now a talisman of impending closure. Miss Marple arrived precisely at 4, her step light but purposeful, a basket of knitting over one arm like innocuous camouflage. Behind her trailed the assembled figures, Dr. James Kennedy, his stoop more pronounced, eyes darting with wary caution. Jackie Affleck, robust and defiant, his sapphire ring flashing like a challenge, and Walter Fane, the once spurned solicitor, now a silver-haired retiree with a briefcase clutched like a shield. The compact mirror from the Folly lay on the side table, beside the forged postcard and Helen's letters, a gallery of artifacts poised for judgment. "Dear me," Miss Marple murmured, settling into a high-backed chair with the grace of a queen assuming her throne. "Such a gathering. One might think we're here for tea and scones, but alas, it's truth we serve today. Gwenda, child, you've done splendidly orchestrating this. Now, let us awaken what has slumbered too long." The group arranged themselves uneasily, the fire in the grate popping sporadically as if punctuating unspoken tensions. Kennedy cleared his throat. "This is irregular, Miss Marple. Dragging us here like suspects in some parlor game." "Oh, but it is a game of sorts," she replied, her needles clicking into rhythm, a soothing counterpoint to the mounting strain. A puzzle where pieces scattered by time finally interlock. Helen Halliday didn't vanish into thin air or elope under moonlit sails. She met her end here, in this very house, her light extinguished by a hand she trusted implicitly. Affleck leaned forward, his voice a rumble. "We've been over this. My alibi's watertight, yacht in Falmouth, and Fane here, scribbling sonnets like a lovesick pup, but harmless." Fane adjusted his spectacles, his tone measured. "Indeed. I adored Helen from afar, sent tokens of affection. The compact slipped to her during a garden stroll. But murder, preposterous. I was in London that night. Court documents attest." Miss Marple's eyes twinkled over her knitting. "Quite right, gentlemen. Your veils have lifted. revealing not killers, but men ensnared by passion's web. Jackie, your clandestine meetings were escapes for Helen, breaths of freedom in a stifling marriage. Walter, your sonnets were balm to her ego, innocent flirtations. But the true architect of deception wove a subtler tapestry, one of familial bonds twisted into nooses. All eyes turned to Kennedy, who paled, his pipe trembling in his grip. Gwenda's breath caught, memories surging like tidal waves, fragmented images of a stern figure bending over a fallen form, the acrid scent of medicine masking something fouler. Dr. Kennedy, Miss Marple continued, her voice gentle yet inexorable. You loved Helen fiercely, not as a brother, but with a possessor's zeal. Half-siblings, shared blood diluted by different worlds. You, the pragmatic healer, she, the effervescent star. When she blossomed into independence, courting admirers, defying conventions, it gnawed at you. She's mine to protect, you thought, but protection curdled into control. Kennedy's stoop straightened momentarily, defiance flickering. Absurd. I mediated their rouse, urged restraint. Helen was flighty, needed guidance. Ah, but guidance became guardianship, then jail, Miss Marple countered. That fateful night, Helen confided in you, desperate to flee Kelvin's suspicions, perhaps even with Jackie's aid. You arrived unannounced, found her in the folly, lanterns signaling her intent. Words escalated, accusations of ingratitude, betrayal. In a surge of rage, your hands, trained to heal, closed around her throat, a momentary frenzy but irreversible. The room gasped in unison. Affleck half rose, fists clenched, Vane's briefcase slipped to the floor with a thud. Giles steadied Gwenda, her hands icy despite the fire's warmth. Proof, Kennedy barked, though his voice wavered. Wild conjecture from an old busybody. Miss Marple set aside her knitting, producing a small evidence pouch from her basket, like a magician revealing her finale. Not conjecture, Doctor. Logic corroborated by facts. Gwenda's resurfaced memories, a child witnessing from the shadows, suppressing the horror. She saw you drag Helen to the hall, staging the scene as Kelvin's delusion. Then the masterstroke, lacing his quinine with digitalis and hallucinogens from your medical kit. Visions of murder plagued him, convincing all of his madness, while Helen's elopement note, forged in your precise hand, diverted suspicion. Kennedy's face crumpled, the pipe clattering to the hearth. It was an accident. She laughed at my concerns, mocked my stuffy ways. I grabbed her scarf in anger. It tightened. Panic seized me. I couldn't lose her legacy, our family's name. Gwenda stood, voice steady despite tears. You buried her in the garden, didn't you? Under the follies wisteria where the locket was found, with strands of her hair caught in the clasp. Miss Marple nodded approvingly. Precisely. And the postcard. Ink analysis reveals modern pigments masked as vintage. Your attempt to reinforce the myth when whispers resurfaced. But gardens yield secrets. Soil samples from recent digs show disturbances matching the era, fibers matching Helen's known wardrobe. Affleck's eyes blazed. You monster! She dreamed of horizons. You clipped her wings. Vane murmured, all those years believing she fled. Kennedy slumped fully now, the weight of decades crashing down. I poisoned Kelvin's mind to protect us all, him from truth, me from the gallows, sent Gwenda away, erased the past, but ghosts persist. The confession hung, a cathartic release that drained the room's tension like a lanced wound. Giles summoned the constable discreetly, while Miss Marple rose, her presence a calming anchor. Justice awakens, Doctor. Helen rests avenged, her sleeping murder no longer dormant. As authorities arrived, Kennedy was led away without resistance, his final glance at Gwenda one of twisted remorse. "Forgive me, child. I thought I saved you." The villa exhaled as the door closed, shadows retreating with the fading light. Gwenda and Giles stood on the porch, the sea's rhythmic crash a soothing lullaby. Affleck and Fane departed with nods of solidarity, their own burdens lightened by truth's balm. Miss Marple lingered, basket in hand. "My dears, you've reclaimed your home. Houses heal, given time and light. Remember, evil thrives in silence, but love echoes eternally." Gwenda embraced her. "Your guidance, priceless, like unraveling a tangled skein." With a knowing smile, Miss Marple vanished into the twilight, her figure diminishing along the cliff path, a guardian angel retreating to her knitting and gardens. That night, Hillside felt reborn. Gwenda and Giles dined under stars visible through newly cleaned windows, toasting to futures unshadowed. The staircase stood benign, monkeys on the banister mere whimsy. Dreams came gently, no horrors, only Helen's laughter, free at last. In the days that followed, the villa buzzed with renewal, gardens replanted, walls repapered in cheerful motifs. Gwenda's memories, once tormentors, became cherished links to a mother reclaimed. Justice served, peace descended, love's triumph sealing the saga in harmonious finality.